St. Paul is the capital of the U.S. state of Minnesota. It is the county seat of Ramsey County, the state's smallest in terms of area, second most populous, and most densely populated county. As of 2020, its population was 311,527, making it the 63rd largest city in the United States and the 11th most populous in the Midwest. Most of the city lies east of the Mississippi River at the confluence with the Minnesota River. Minneapolis, the state's largest city, is across the river to the west. Together, they are known as the Twin Cities. They are the core of Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area, home to over 3.6 million and the third largest in the Midwest. The Legislative Assembly of the Minnesota Territory established the town of St. Paul as its capital near existing Dakota Sioux settlements in November 1849. It remained a town until 1854. The Dakota name for where St. Paul is situated is Imneziska, for the white rock bluffs along the river. The city is known for the Xcel Energy Center, home to the Minnesota Wild. Regionally, it is known for the Science Museum of Minnesota and its new soccer stadium, Alliance Field. As a business hub of the upper Midwest, it is the headquarters of companies such as Ecolab. St. Paul and Minneapolis are also known for their high literacy rate. The first structure in what became St. Paul was constructed in 1838 at the entrance to Fountain Cave, overlooking the Mississippi. It was a tavern belonging to Pig's Eye Parent near where Randolph Avenue today meets the river bluff. Parent's Tavern was well known and the surrounding area came to be known as Pig's Eye. That lasted until the Catholic missionary Lucien Gaultier arrived in 1840. He did not care for Parent, his tavern, or the name Pig's Eye. Gaultier's arrival coincided with Parent's eviction from Fountain Cave and the building of a log chapel near where steamboats had an easy landing. Gaultier named the chapel St. Paul's, making it known that the settlement was then to be called by that name. As St. Paul as applied to a town or city was well appropriated. This monosyllable is short, sounds good, it is understood by all Christian denominations. While Pig's Eye was no longer the settlement's name, it came to refer to wetlands and two islands south of the city's center. The original town was laid out on two plats covering 240 acres. The first plat was filed in the territory of Wisconsin, the second in the territory of Minnesota. The boundaries were Elm Street, 7th Street, Wakota Street, and the river. Between 1849 and 1887, the boundaries were expanded 14 times to their present extent. As the region grew, the city became the seat of an archdiocese that built St. Paul's Cathedral, overlooking the downtown. Burial mounds in present-day Indian Mounds Park suggest the area was inhabited by the Hopewell Native Americans about 2,000 years ago. From the early 17th century to 1837, the Madiwakanton Dakota, a tribe of the Sioux, lived near the mounds after being displaced from their ancestral grounds by Mille Lacs Lake from advancing Ojibwe. The Dakota called the area Imneziska for its exposed white sandstone cliffs on the river's eastern side. The Imneziska were full of caves that were useful to the Dakota. The explorer Jonathan Carver documented the historic walk-in teepee in the bluff below the burial mounds in 1767. In the Menominee language, St. Paul was called Sanipan Menikan, which means ribbon, silk or satin village, suggesting its role in trade throughout the region after the introduction of European goods. After the 1803 Louisiana Purchase, U.S. Army Lieutenant Zebulon Pike negotiated approximately 100,000 acres of land from the indigenous Dakota in 1805 to establish a fort. A military reservation was intended for the confluence of the Mississippi and Minnesota rivers on both sides of the Mississippi up to St. Anthony Falls. All of what is now the Highland Park neighborhood was included in this. Pike planned a second military reservation at the confluence of the St. Croix and Mississippi rivers. In 1819, Fort Snelling was built at the Minnesota and Mississippi confluence. The 1837 treaty with the Sioux ceded all tribal lands east of the Mississippi to the U.S. government. Chief Little Crow removed his village, Kaposia, from south of Mounds Park across the river a few miles onto Dakota land. Fur traders, explorers, and settlers came to the area for the fort's security. Many were French Canadians who predated American pioneers by some time. A whiskey trade flourished among the squatters and the fort's commander evicted them all from the fort's reservation. Fur trader turned bootlegger, Pig's Eye Parent, who set up business just outside the reservation, particularly irritated the commander. By the early 1840s, a community had developed nearby that locals called Pig's Eye or Pig's Eye Landing after Parent's popular tavern. In 1842 a raiding party of Ajib attacked the Kaposia encampment south of St. Paul. A bar,